Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this joint meeting of the Finance Committee and Select Board of March 24th. We'll go straight to our open forum agenda item. Does anybody have anything? And I will just remind people that it is being recorded. Okay, I don't see anything. So 7:05 agenda item is the reserve fund transfer request from the fire department. And we have Chief Targ here.
Yes, the first one is for expenses. We've had some definitely maintenance issues this year. We've had a water heater let go, which fortunately the tank was under warranty, but the expense of changing it, they were all listed in the packet. Another thing that just really is hampering our budget, we didn't have anything budgeted for pre-employment physicals or anything like that, and it really doesn't fall in that category, but that's where we put it, was the Deputy Fire Chief Assessment Center. We knew Dan was retiring, we just didn't know when, and we didn't budget anything for it. So we did, we felt that was needed to go forward with that. HR didn't have any money in their account to help us out with that. So that's kind of messing the red in that account, but we're just looking for this for the building maintenance to get through the rest of the year. They're just here today, the heating company doing some work. Garage doors and heat, the trouble we had this year. It's not just this station, it's been all three stations have been getting us trouble because the doors are constantly opening and closing. They're big, heavy doors. We actually have one at the center station that it's where the ambulance, reserve ambulance is, and we're actually not going to fix it till after July 1st unless we have money in June. We told the vendor to just hold off until we get to the new budget, but we're just looking to try to make it through the rest of the year on these. Where we are now, we still got 3 months to go.
Okay, question for Dan O'Donnell. What is our reserve fund balance?
So we're starting tonight with $99,456, just under 100 grand.
Okay. I have a couple of questions on these. Is this water heater is for the Boston Road facility, correct, Chief?
It is correct, yes.
And the circulator, is that also for
Boston Road, yeah.
Boston Road? And then
gas. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. And then another question for the glycol for the ramp heat. That's Boston Road as well.
It is, yes.
And was that a tank or just the glycol?
The glycol, it had a leak. There is a tank that holds the glycol, and we think we found the source of that. And we're just waiting we actually have a purchase order for the glycol. We're just waiting for it to come in. We just want to make sure that's right. We have the facilities, the town plumber and Paul Fox are working on it without using a vendor, but we just need the glycol to get it where we think it's right, and we'll hopefully test it out before we get into the next heating season at this point.
Okay, and so what's the expansion tank?
So the boilers run, they can run up to 15 to 20 pounds of pressure. When the water heats up, the water expands, and this tank is half water and half air. And as it fills up, there's like a rubber bladder in it, and the water expands into the tank so it doesn't overpressurize the boiler or blow the relief valve. And
is this the Boston Road facility also?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my overall comment is this building is 3 years old, and I'm a little concerned that there's $15,000 worth of replacements and pretty significant repairs. Do we have any sort of
Warranty
reason or explanation for this?
We have been reaching out to the architect about this and the mechanical engineers. They recommended on some of these things a flushing schedule, which, you know, it was buried in the maintenance. We're open with Paul Fox to get on that. We're also trying to get together with Paul and Mark Warren, the water superintendent, to talk about maybe a water softening. We are on the high pressure system down here for the Route 110 area, so we're not sure if that's causing it, but we are looking into that right now.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions? Kari?
One question is, where did the glycol leaked into? It's just leaked into the sewage? Like the stormwater drain?
No, it was under the ramp. It's a mixture. It's not 100% glycol. It's a small percent just to keep it from freezing.
Okay. What's the environmental impact of that?
Was that?
What is the environmental impact of glycol leaking into wherever it leaked to?
We did check into it with the health department. They did not feel it was an issue for the amount that leaked.
Okay.
Heather, did you have your hand up?
And is the
Or-
leak,
or I'm sorry, Hari, are you all set?
one more. Is
Okay.
the leak fixed before refilling it, or we don't know the leak, and if we refill it, the leak is gonna further drain it?
We believe it was the vents, and the facilities has the new vents to install. We're just waiting for the glycol to arrive.
I did not know. Well, is the leak fixed, right?
We believe it is, yes.
All set, Hari?
Yeah.
Heather, did you have something?
Could you just clarify, did you say you're gonna maybe fix a door at the center fire station that's gonna get demolished?
No, the door is not working right now. It's one of where the backup ambulance is, so we can get it a different way. We're gonna hold off fixing it right now until we get into the new budget season.
But your plan is to fix it eventually?
Oh, yes.
And
yeah.
then my question would be to somebody, when's that slated to be demolished?
I don't know. It wouldn't be demolished. It would just be repaired.
Are we talking about the fire station next to town hall?
Oh, no, this is down here on Boston Road.
Oh, okay. When you said center, I was thinking.
Oh, okay. yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? John?
Yeah, did any of this come under any kind of a warranty? Seems like this is awful soon for a lot of stuff to be going wrong with the new fire department or the new building.
We did talk to Tom Mahana and the architect, and they some of the stuff that we've had over the last couple of years, the heating company has been good in coming back and doing it at no cost. Some of these items are beyond the warranty.
Okay, thank you.
The tank itself was warranted. That got replaced. It was the labor that was expensive that we had to pay for.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? Tom?
Chief, just one quick question on the glycol system, given the fact that we are hopefully getting out of the freezing season here. Would there be any benefit to waiting till the next budget cycle, given the current level of the reserve?
It would be $1,700 for the glycol. We were hoping to get it back into place. We're actually hoping, it's been ordered for over 2 months. We've had a PO for it. And we were hoping it's the same company that's done the work for that worked today on the circulator, and they've done work in town at school buildings and stuff. And they just, with everything, they don't have a date when it's gonna be delivered. I mean, we could ask if we could put it off for $1,700 till the fall. We're hoping it arrived in February so we could put it in and test it and make sure that everything was back to normal.
Okay, any other questions? I'm not seeing any. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a mo-
I'll move the week. All right, go ahead, Karen. You gonna do it?
Yeah, I move the motion to approve the fire department transfer.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Hari,
Yes.
Dennis,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an I. I think I got all the FinCom people. Okay. So that passes. Next is the fire department overtime.
Yes, we've had a run of good luck this year with no one getting hurt or any medical issues, but unfortunately that ended just recently, where we now have we have one open position from someone that retired, and then we have 5 people that are out 2 IOD and on 3 on medicals. The thing about public safety, you have to be 100% to come back to your job before the doctor will sign off for you. So a couple of them are extended several weeks. So Dan did an analysis with the pay rates, and this is, instead of coming back in May or running the overtime into the negative, this is we're looking to have the money so we can continue filling these positions for a safe level.
Any questions? Dennis?
Yeah, Chief, can you just give a rundown in very broad terms on the 3 IOD injuries, what caused them and how they happened?
One, I actually don't want to say, one was a back sprain, but there's 2 IODs.
Were they engaged in firefighting activities or carrying somebody or what?
Fire department activities.
Okay.
Anybody else? I'm not seeing anything. Okay. Can I call for a motion? Somebody? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Hari,
Yes.
Dennis,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes.
One
Thank
question.
you.
Christine?
Yep.
First for the chief, in the future, chief, if you're coming in with some IODs, would like to get a little bit of a more specific explanation of why, how they got injured. What activities?
That's fine. The diagnosis is more of a HIPAA reason why we don't say in our field.
Yeah, but you don't, I mean, a HIPAA is when we ask for a specific individual, but this is like kind of an OSHA deal. So we know whether it's, it has to do with actual firefighting activities, carrying somebody or whatever. So maybe we can, that does impact town policy, and that's something we should know.
It does. You could figure out who the person is by them not on the payroll and everything else, but I'll discuss it with the town manager for next time.
All right.
Yep.
So we're on to our 7:15 agenda item to review the department budgets. First up is the police department, and we have Chief Chambers here.
Good evening,
Chief.
everybody. Hi, how are you?
Good.
All right. So for the police department's budget request for fiscal 23, the budget request is $6,015,845 under the town manager's requested. And it represents a 1.99% increase over fiscal year 22. The increases are mostly due to the addition of the final patrol officer that had been discussed over the past several years and was a result of that 2017, 2018 public safety staffing survey that was conducted and supported by the town manager and the board. That's one of the largest changes on the personnel side. And then on the expenses side, we were able to work with Paul Fox, the facilities director, and Dan O'Donnell, the finance director, and we were able to identify some cost reductions or transfers that we could correctly place with the facilities department. So overall, our increase to our personnel services is about 2.11%, and that does include the addition of 1 new patrol officer. We're currently staffed, although budgeted for 49, we currently have 44 active officers. Those are all between our patrol and detectives and administration. We have 2 recruit officers that are currently in the Reading Police Academy that replaced Chief McEnany when he retired, and the officer that was budgeted and implemented back in January of 2021. We did have a previous candidate that was not able to complete all the requirements, so that facilitated us to kind of push it out, and we were able to get the new hire into an academy in January, at the beginning of January. The other 3 spots, we have given conditional letters of employment to officers, prospective officers, and they're currently undergoing medicals, and we'll have to do physical fitness tests and pass a few psychological exams. And we're hoping to have them start in May at the Lowell Police Academy. But the final officer will, if this goes through town meeting, will be able to start the planning once that goes through, and hopefully schedule them for an academy shortly after July 1st. Most of the other adjustments that are accounted for in the personnel side on personal services are due to step increases under the collective bargaining agreements and advanced degrees that have been obtained by a couple of our officers. I would like to announce that we have 5 other officers that have now gone back for their masters, and they just started a couple weeks ago, so good luck to them. And the other increases I know that was discussed and we received some questions on has revolved around the increase to our holiday line, which is mainly due to the addition of the Juneteenth holiday last year. That was voted on by the Selectboard, and increases to our longevity line, which is just due to several officers that have achieved employment seniority milestones that are through contract obligations. On the expense side of the budget, it is a little bit complicated to follow along with, but we are requesting an increase of 0.91%. Those increases are mainly through the increased cost of utilities, gasoline, and under the new cruiser line. This is where we were able to try and find some efficiencies when we did a review of the police department expenses with Paul Fox and Dan O'Donnell, who I would like to thank both Dan and Paul for being patient. And, we went line by line on what our expenses were. So starting with our building maintenance line, originally last year in fiscal 22, we were at 28,000. It has been reduced to 6,000, and that's just to remain within the control of the police department for building specific maintenance for our cell block, garage doors, electric, plumbing needs. And 7,000 of that was being used for a scheduling software system that has now been moved to our contracted services line. That is a new line, although the $7,000 was accounted under our building maintenance. So that went to contracted service, and the remaining 15,000 is being moved over to the facilities department, public buildings and facilities under Paul Fox. And mostly what that's for is for our heating and cooling system, the elevator maintenance, fire sprinkler and alarm, and our pest management. The generator line was taken over fully by our facilities department, has been reduced to 0. And similar to the building maintenance, the equipment maintenance is our annual contracts just for the annual maintenance and inspections under the maintenance contracts for HVAC, the elevator, fire sprinkler alarm, stuff like that, was reduced by 7,200. The remaining amount that's left in our building, in my equipment maintenance line is for our Pitney Bowes mailing services, the cell block camera system, Hunter cameras, and funding for our annual maintenance on our breathalyzer and fingerprint machines. And further down on the expense side, the contracted services, like I spoke about, the $7,000 was transferred from building maintenance into this new line. And what it is for, it's for scheduling software called detail tracking systems. It tracks the details and overtime that police officers are using, and it's saving our shift commanders approximately 15 to 20 hours a week that they previously would be sitting at their desk, just entering information, making phone calls. It's an app-based service that once the information is entered in, it's sent out. The officers have the ability to bid on it, and it's awarded through the algorithm that the app uses. So it saves a tremendous amount of time for our shift commanders. Why I really like this program is that it does add an extra layer of oversight for any details and overtime that are put out and taken. It requires supervisor approval. They're the only ones that are allowed to put those types of payments into the system. Supervisors are not allowed to approve their own overtime or details. That has to be signed off on by somebody else. Another layer of oversight is that the office manager reviews any detail and overtime that gets entered. And we do quarterly, if not more regular, audits of the entire system to make sure everything's lining up. So
That's good.
Moving on from that, we do have a gasoline line increase up to 91,200. We did base our initial calculations on the average 3-year average of gallons of gas was 34,400. With Christina, you like this one, is the addition of those 3 additional hybrid cruisers, gas hybrid cruisers. We did try to be conservative on what our anticipated fuel savings is, and we kept it at about 4,000. So that's 1,333 out of the across the 3 cruisers. But it did reduce our anticipated budget by 12,000. Hopefully we realize even more than that, especially with gas prices. But we did order these hybrid cruisers in July of 21, right? As soon as the fiscal year started, we ordered them. We still have not received them. We're supposed to, the first 2 were supposed to be delivered this week to our upfitter. And we're trying to get confirmation that they're actually there. But there is, we'll get into what we're going to order and a little further down. But hopefully we'll be able to save even more in fiscal 24's gasoline budget and the cost drops. The next item that went down was our office equipment line. The $2,100 that it's been reduced was transferred over to the facilities. And that was something that was identified by going through line by line, what we were charging there with Paul Fox and Dan O'Donnell. And we were using the same vendor to purchase buildings like office and building supplies, paper supplies, stuff for the toilets, stuff for, paper towels, cleaning supplies. So where we found that redundancy, we transferred that wholly to facilities. And then the remaining that will stay in that line is medical supplies, badges, patches. We used it to purchase a couple of new heavy duty shredders because we seem to go through quite a few of those. Blankets for the cell block. We replace aging equipment under that line, and outside of office furniture stuff. So separate from like chairs and tables and stuff, but we'll purchase filing cabinets and things like that under that. And then our final big increase over last year is the purchase of the 3 hybrid gas cruisers. And I know most everybody on this meeting was part of the extended conversation around the hybrid gas cruisers last year. And I do really thank the Finance Committee and Board on allowing us to revisit that, to give a little more funding to begin making this switch over to the hybrid gas cruisers. But the actual cost was not the 142,000. It was more along 151 or so. But because of our insurance recovery line and the additional funding that was provided, we were able to make that work. So this year's request of 157,896 breaks down to just over 52,000 per new cruiser. It's about $2,000 more per cruiser than last year. I would imagine everybody's aware of kind of the global situation with chips and the increased cost for vehicle purchases. We are going to feel that. The other impact to the cost is that with the new body style of the Ford Explorers, our old equipment does not transfer. Hopefully within the next few years, we're caught up and we'll be able to just transfer we wouldn't need to purchase a full set of brand new equipment for each of the cars. We can transfer it between them. Christina, I know that you had mentioned in the past about looking for grants, and unfortunately right now, I have not been able to track any. I'm not sure if Eric has come across any that is more for those types of vehicles where it's gas hybrid, has to be more on the electric side with a smaller gas component from what we've seen. But we did recently participate in a fleet survey that was organized by Eric and undergone with National Grid to look for opportunities to begin the transition. But they also kind of concluded that where we're at, there's still very few options that are currently out there for what our patrol needs would be. We might be able to take advantage of some administrative side, but that's not a priority for kind of my budget cycle. So, and that should, if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Chief. Anybody have questions? Heather?
I have a couple line items on this budget in particular, but just in reviewing some of the other departments and getting ready for next week, I have a little bit of concern, and I guess this is more directed to the boards, that the inflationary costs and the increasing prices of fuel, that we are going to run into some issues where we exceeded our budgets. And for example, I know Mark talked about gasoline, but underneath that mileage, it's calculated based on $3 a gallon. So, I mean, we're already 50% over, and we're 3 months away from the new year starting. So I'm not sure. I don't know where any money would come from. I don't know if we could increase the FinCom reserve when we get to that, but I feel like there's a lot of risk in some of these line items, you know, specifically in police, as I just mentioned, gasoline, but then also, you know, all the equipment and supplies that Mark mentioned, firearm supplies. I mean, I just don't know how much risk is out there with some of these costs, and if we can control them and cut back, or if there's legitimate concern that these line items are going to go over.
Jody and Dan, do you want to comment on maybe the assumptions for next year and where we might have some risk?
So I would say, if you remember, we put this budget together several months ago, and things have changed. And we're obviously going to pay attention to what's going on in the world and, where things go, and we will make adjustments as we need to, just as we have done every year. So I personally don't feel like I need to go back and start at this point cutting other areas. I think, we've got a lot of seasoned department heads who will pay attention to these things and act accordingly. And if we get ourselves into a situation where we think that there needs to be adjustments elsewhere, we will make them. So I think Dan and I, have made a commitment to track this and with the department heads and pay attention to it. But this is a very streamlined budget. As Mark said, he's up I think he said 0.9. That is pretty remarkable. And I know he's done an excellent job of monitoring his budgets and paying attention, as have the other department heads. So I don't feel comfortable reducing already streamlined at this point. I think we need to pay attention to it and make decisions as we move forward.
Okay, thanks. Heather, you have more?
I think more. I'm not thinking of cutting. I'm thinking that we would need to increase. But I guess it's the answer that at this point in the game, the only way that you could increase a line item like gasoline would be to cut somewhere else.
Yes, but as you, I'm sure, remember, Dan and I have, I mean, it sounds weird to say this, but we pretty effectively reduced budgets when we needed to mid-year. I think back in 20, or I think it was 20, when after the pandemic hit, we cut $500,000 at October and another $500,000 by the spring. So we will pay attention to it. We understand what's going on, and maybe there's some internal procedures that we can change or adjust to try to cope with this. And I'm hopeful that this will be not a long-term effect on us, but we will pay attention to it. I could guarantee you that. And certainly we have also taken measures where we've not filled positions for a few months to try to reduce spending as we get through. So there's lots of things we can do to try to manage the situation. And I can promise you that we will be paying attention and making adjustments, at the fall town meeting if need be, or just within our procedures to be able to handle this. So.
Thanks, Jody. Do you have anything else, Heather? No, okay. Tom?
Just a quick follow-up, and this is being new to FinCom. Obviously, we see gas prices at gas stations, at private gas stations, is it correct to assume that we are paying at least a little bit less than commercial rates for primary gasoline? I know that there's times that you can't use DPW, but I'm assuming that we do get a supply direct and take out the middleman. Is that correct?
Can somebody answer that question?
Yes, we do have a contract with gas. I don't know what that amount is right this moment. I don't know if Eric's out in the background and can provide that, but we do have a contract with local vendors to provide gas. But I can't give you the exact dollar amount, today. I can answer that tomorrow. Or there's Eric.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, as Jody mentioned, we do use a WEX card, which is through the OSD statewide contract. So we do get a discount on the prices that are at the pump. And we're also exempt from the fuel tax. So there is a savings that we achieve. And also at the Department of Public Works, we purchase fuel typically from Dennis K. Burke, which is a vendor on state contract as well. So we do get a discount on both gasoline and diesel fuel through that state contract.
Thanks, Eric. I'd be curious to know what that resulting price is. If you guys could send us that later, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. It does change with the regular gas prices at the pump,
Sure.
it fluctuates. So I can provide some background information on both of those.
Great, thank you. Dennis, I
welcome.
think I saw your hand up, or
Yeah.
Tom,
Just
are
a
you all set? I'm sorry, Tom, are you all set? Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
A question for Eric. I just wanted to revisit, clarify for me if you can. You just stated that the town is exempt from the sales tax. Are you sure about that? Because as I remember it, when it passed, they didn't exempt the town. Did that change? Do you know?
Dennis, I'm happy to confirm. I will send the specifics on the WEX program and how it works. Just to confirm, I'm providing with 100% accurate information. So I'll make sure you get an email tomorrow morning with all the backup.
All I'm interested in is whether or not we're exempt from the gas tax. That's all I'd like to know.
Not a problem.
Okay. And the other thing is, I just have one question for the chief. It's a follow-up from last year. We had some work done over the year, and that was the recording of the issues regarding the dispatch recording, and maybe the folks from the dispatch or even the fire department can opine on this. But we were trying to figure out how we could record and get a picture of what the opioid situation is as far as overdoses, Narcan administered, and all that. I was wondering if the chief or anybody in there can provide any oversight as to what the status of that is now.
Yeah, so Dennis, we tried several different ways to try and track it, including contacting our RMS vendor of IMC to see if we could have a field added for any suspected overdose during dispatch. But what we've been able to determine is by doing a keyword search, we can actually search for a Narcan use or suspected opioid. So we can use keywords to call up reports to at least refine our search and then do a little more in-depth dive per report to see which ones we can actually determine have been attributed to an opioid.
Okay, that's good. That's better.
And I know we also had discussed about following the trends. I know both Chief Targ and myself both are in regular contact with area chiefs. So if they start to experience any increase in overdose or negative opioid activity other than personal use, there's generally a lot of chatter that will begin. I know, for instance, Lowell over the past week has been putting out a couple public health safety alerts about some opioid use that's going on there. They've had several overdoses, some fatal over the past week. So looks like there might be a bad batch that might filter out our way, but we'll have to wait and see.
Can you give us any indication of how we're doing on the year with regards to these things?
I don't have a current stat, but we did provide those statistics. We did have 5 attributed Westford deaths in fiscal 21. I did try to look at the ME's website when you sent that request. The most recent data is only up until May of 2021. It was updated in November of 2021. So we'll keep an eye on that site because we do have to wait for the ME's office to confirm cause of death. Even if we suspect opioid, it's ultimately up to them to make that determination.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we did have 2 from our system they were able to track down. They got 3 doses each. And we are in discussion with the EMS coordinators and our medical control doctor about the Leave at Home Narcan program. We'll see if that's something they're interested in participating with Lowell General. We should know more in the next month or 2 for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hey, John?
Yes, Chief, in talking about the officers, the new officers, you say 2 officers are currently in the police academy. You had 3 coming in, or you think are going to go in May, and then we're going to initiate the process for the 6th additional officer. When do you expect the 2 from the academy to arrive? And if those that go in May, when would you expect them to come on board?
So the ones that started in January are scheduled to finish at the beginning of June. So they will probably be ready to go hopefully by the beginning of September. We have a 10 to 12 week a minimum field training officer program that they have to successfully complete before they're allowed to work on their own. The 3 additional officers, hopefully they all pass their physical requirements to get into the Lowell Police Academy in May. So they'll be out the end of October and hopefully on the road right around Christmas, New Year.
Okay, I assume that we're budgeting for the complete, for you having the complete authorized strength sometime in the next fiscal year. Okay. So when would you expect to have your full allotment of officers?
Never.
Never?
I've been doing this long enough. Every time we get another officer, it gives us a new thing to shoot for. So if we can get to 50, we could have the backgrounds and everything done on potential candidate by the end of July, and medical, psychological, physical aptitude testing completed hopefully by the end of August, but that's a pretty aggressive timeline. And then once we have all of that information in hand, we can set them up with an academy. We'll obviously try to reserve a spot, but there is a very serious backlog of officers trying to get into academies. There's a lot of hiring going on because there have been a lot of retirements at area departments, and the academy being every 6 months, and we're very limited in area-wise where we can send them. Sometimes it is difficult to find a spot in an academy. So hopefully by, I would say, August, September, that July 1 position should be filled, and an academy by hopefully end of September, October. But that's if everything goes perfectly and they don't fail a run, or only do 23 push-ups instead of 25, or and that is a real problem that we're running into. There is the new physical standards, and having officers be prepared for that has become difficult.
Do we incur any expense before we sign them on?
We do. So not just with police reform, but as a police department, we've done psychological screenings of all potential candidates, and we have to pay for that. We have to pay for the medical, and we have to pay for their physical aptitude test to even move on to the next phase, which is testing to get into the academy. So we do incur some cost. When it's about, I want to say about between 1,200 and 1,500. I could have Marcy pull that, but each individual officer is about 1,200.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Just a follow up on that, Chief. So the new hire for July, sounds like if everything goes as planned, they probably still wouldn't even be here until and ready to work until next spring, or when
Following
would you?
July, very likely.
So a year.
Yeah, from the beginning of the process all the way through, if everything lines up like you wish to, it'll be between 10 and 12 months before we recognize any benefit from hiring that officer.
Okay, but salary for that extra officer is built into the budget, correct?
It is, and the good thing is, but we don't pay the salary. So we can give the conditional letter of employment, and we can send them to their medical and physical and psychological and have all of that done, but they do not start to get paid until day one of the police academy. So
Okay.
the only cost that we incur is kind of the testing cost to see if they're fit to proceed. And once we get that checkbox, all those checkboxes checked, then we can move on, and they will not get paid until they start a police academy.
Okay, thanks. John, go ahead.
Yeah, so they get paid while they're in the police academy?
They
We
do,
can
they
give
get
them our
paid at, sorry, yeah, they get paid at step 1 patrol officer rate.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have another question? I'm not seeing anybody. I have just, I think, a couple to follow up on. As far as the grants, and this is probably a question for Eric. Does the Green Communities Grant not pay for hybrids anymore? See if Eric comes back online.
I think when we had this discussion the last time, hopefully Eric will be, there we go. I'll let you answer, Eric.
I'm back. So we actually did put in for some funding for the police cruisers this year to get some supplemental funding.
Mhm.
And the Green Communities Program unfortunately did not fund the police vehicles for whatever reason. But we certainly could try again in the future. They do provide the same amount as the mass EVIP programs. So you could either go for one or the other. It's a set value.
Oh, and the EVIP also applies to hybrids? I guess I thought those were just plug-ins and full electric.
The benefit of the EVIP is you can do the, like you mentioned, the PHEV or a BEV. With the other green communities, you could still take advantage of the a standard hybrid that you don't plug in.
Okay. All right, let's see. Actually, I guess that was my last question. So does anybody else have anything else? I don't think so. Okay, oh, Jody.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I don't know that you all have heard, but actually we were successful in getting a grant for the new sustainability coordinator. We weren't supposed to announce it till today, but thank you very much for Eric for filling out that grant, and we're really excited to move forward and hire that person. So we have funding for at least a year, so.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did know that, but I wasn't sure I could say anything yet, so I didn't. That was was that a regional grant? Are we still combining with somebody else, or how is that
Yeah.
working?
Yes, it was a regional grant. So Eric reached out to a few communities and we decided Carlisle would be great and they agreed. So we will be sharing this person with Carlisle.
Great, thanks. So I guess we're done, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And moving on to public safety, I think we have Tim Wickham. There he is. Any questions on public safety? Public safety communications?
No questions. Mine is certainly not as complicated as the police department.
I guess not. Do you have anything you'd like to? Oh, wait, I see Dennis has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a comment on the, you're looking for a 12th, I guess you call them telecommunicators now, right?
Correct.
And it said, as I read the brief that you provided, because you don't have that one person, you wind up with a 50 to 80% vacancy, staff rate. And how does that happen?
So we are staffed at minimum manning at 2, 2, and 2. Ideally, I would like to be at 3, 3, and 2. Without that, I have a shortage all the time. And if anybody is ever out, that shortage doubles.
Okay, I got it now. I got you. Thank you.
And we unfortunately, we almost always run at short staff anyway. So even if I was to get the 12th, I likely would still be running at 11, but at least I'd be in a better position.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much. I understand that now.
Jody?
Yes, so Tim has been asking for this, I believe, for 3
Yeah, at least, yeah, about that.
least 3 years. And, I do think eventually we do need to fund this, but I was trying to fund the 8 firefighters and 5 police officers the select board directed me to do first. So Tim is getting closer, I would say, but he's He's very successful in obtaining grants that offset a lot of the cost of his department. So that definitely helps, but I'm keeping a close eye on that too. And Tim does a fantastic job of running that department with 11.
We do. The staff does a great job pulling it together, and I understand the importance of getting the police and fire up to the numbers too. So,
Thank you.
is there any more questions? We don't have.
I am not seeing anything, but is there anything you'd like to mention to us while we have you here?
No, the budget is, it's pretty much right on task. It's a 1.68 increase overall. That, again, the same as the police, and probably the fire will have the same thing. The holiday bumped it up minimally, but a couple of $1,000s. And then standard union contractual step increases bumped it up a little bit. But other than that, we're pretty much right on task.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And back to Chief Targ for the fire department.
Hello, make sure I'm unmuted. Do you want to start with fire or ambulance?
Let's start with fire.
Sure. Most of our increases is all contractual on the fire personal expenses. We did see a jump of over 5% in longevity. We have some people that are into their milestones where they're going to increase their longevity. We do have one firefighter, an increase in staff for next year. We're also, Deputy Dennehy applied for the SAFER grant again. We did not get it in the fall. They went back and they reworked it. And hopefully we'll know or have an idea whether we're going to get before town meeting. So that would change our budget. If we got that, would be for 4 firefighters. We have 2 coming to us from the ARPA funds and this other person that is in the budget. So there would be a reconfiguration of the budget. We hope to know in May when that's gonna, at least if we're in the rank for it. So that's on the firefighter, you see the big line item increase there, and as for the one person on the operating budget side, the building maintenance, part of that budget, like Mark said, went to Paul Fox for some of the maintenance and stuff. And vehicle maintenance basically stayed the same. We went up a little bit. Some of our vehicles are getting older. The gasoline increased, natural gas also increased. We're just going by what our past history is. We're still only a couple years old in the building. We're also looking at on our diesel, the fact that we able to still staff where we are at full staff for 10 people without dropping down. We have a call, for example, if we have a call that's in the 110 area to the elderly housing or to Circle Health, if we normally had an ambulance call there, it would precipitate an engine coming from one of the substations coming up. So we're not having that unnecessary driving back and forth now, so that we are saving some diesel just and wear and tear on the vehicles by not running them up and down. They have to come up a hill to get here. So between the cost of the diesel and the wear and tear, we're seeing a little bit of savings in diesel, we think, in wear and tear vehicle maintenance.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Questions? Are you all set?
Yep.
Any questions? Dennis?
Yeah, Chief, I just want to ask a couple of things for you. First of all, you just kind of referenced it a little bit. We're talking about, did I hear you say that the engines are not accompanying the ambulance now, or they are? That's the first question. And the second one was, you made a reference to ARPA funds. Are you going to utilize ARPA funds to try to employ personnel or what? Can you clarify that for me, please?
Sure. We always send an engine to medical calls. Some more severe calls that we get, we send 2 engines for the assistant. We need more hands. We found that works better. But that would. Sorry about that. They go into urgent care right now, so it'd be the engine 1 and the ambulance going there from headquarters. That leaves 2 people now at the station for the second ambulance or the ladder truck. If we were down to 9, that would cause one of the the NAB engine or the Forge engine to come up here to stand by and cover the station. So we're not having them running up and down the hill for every ambulance call. So we're seeing that savings. And the selectmen did approve some ARPA funds for, I think it's for 3 years for two firefighters.
Now, I have a comment on that. Maybe Jody can answer into that. In your budget message back in February, Jody, I thought you were cautioning people not to utilize this relief money for salaries, because when that money is gone or expended, we're now going to have to pick that cost up on the regular town side budget. Did I interpret that right, or am I wrong?
Jody?
I think we do need to be careful, and I have cautioned the select board, particularly in funding new positions, because that will leave us in a situation where we might have trouble funding that in the future. So
I do have something else to add. We did structure that ARPA funding as if we were going to get it. We structured it the same way as the Safer Grant, with the normal time Safer Grant, not COVID time Safer Grant, where we start absorbing a little bit more each year into the budget. So it'd be like adding someone, we're starting at 100%, and there's a structure that goes with it over the 3 years. So it's not like 100% funding.
and I guess what I would say is we've been attempting to fund the 8 firefighters for, I believe it's 5 years now. It's been a goal, and but there's other new positions that are being requested that I think we just need to be extra careful about, committing to new positions before we fully funded the ones that we've already kind of committed to funding. So
Yeah, because we had the last meeting we had with the school committee, the same issue came up. Dr. Chu was able to explain to us that he was phasing out certain programs that eventually will catch up, and it'll even out as far as the actual current funding levels. What I think we don't want to see happen is we've got positions now being funded, and now when all this funding goes away, and you explained it very well in your message in February, Jody. So I would affirm that message, and I would say we on the finance committee need to watch that, and I think the department heads have to be cautious about how they're going to go and utilize that ARPA funding, because they may wind up coming up short at some point in time, and we wouldn't want to have to pass that on to the average taxpayer. We should stay within our means.
Anybody else? Okay, I have a question on the HVAC system, Chief,
Yes.
at the Boston Road Fire Station. I know for the last couple years that system has had some issues. Is it still experiencing issues, or is it
No, the
working?
issues we had, we worked well with the vendor, and like I said, they've been very kind to us with the invoicing and stuff, because we got on them right away after we got in here, and we had several meetings with Tom Mahanna and actually the owners of the companies that were involved in that. It was more of the computer-based system that was causing the problem, where it sets the outside air and a lot of that. And we believe that all that we're running at, like, everything's not overheating or overcooling in here. We feel that this last year has been great at that set point.
Okay. And that expansion tank, is that connected to the HVAC system at all?
It's the boiler. So it's the hot water boiler. It's for when the hot water expands on the boiler. So yes, it's in the boiler.
So
room.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But we still had to get that replaced, correct?
We did.
And is the company working with us at all?
It was out of warranty. We had to pay for it ourselves. That was one of our costs that we had to incur.
I guess maybe this is a question for Paul Fox, and I can, because I don't think he's here tonight, and I could follow up with him, but I'm again a little concerned that something that's 3 years old that we have been having issues with for 3 years, we're still paying. I don't remember what that expansion tank was, but we just $2,300.
$2,300, yes.
For the expansion tank. So maybe we could follow up on that
Sure.
later. I don't think I have any other questions. Does anybody else have questions? I'm not seeing any. Okay, let's move on to ambulance enterprise.
Just get over my screen. Again, you're seeing all contractual stuff on the personnel side of it, increases. We, in the expense line, a lot of it was, the water. We've been struggling with that, trying to get a handle on the water. We did have a leak last year in the sprinkler system and we found it. We think we got a handle on where the water bill is supposed to be. And we did have an increase in that. The biggest change on the, and this is out of my league, was the indirect cost change, was the greatest change on the ambulance on the personnel side.
Does anybody have questions? Dennis?
All right, Chief, I just wanted to, I'm looking at the reimbursements and the subsidies here. This looks like one of the better years you've had. Am I correct?
We're doing pretty good. We COVID since March in 2020, we've had where we've gone to people's houses. People were afraid to call for the ambulance. They didn't want to go anywhere near the hospital. Or we go to their house and we do a evaluation on them, and then they sign a refusal because they didn't want to go. So our transports were definitely down for those last couple of years, but we're seeing them definitely surge back up, especially these the springtime.
And it seems as though your relationship to bad debt is tied directly to whether or not the people are out of town. It seems that seems to be a little correlation we've got going here.
And there is. We looked at some write-offs today, and we did have some in town going by the billing policy, but we did meet with myself and Deputy Bricko met with Jeff last year, and we had some strategies with the billing company, and definitely Deputy Dennehy's picking up Dan's collection traits and getting on stuff here, and he's been doing pretty good. And I feel between the two of them, having them around to being like a watchdog through the whole process has helped quite a bit.
I mean, Dan Britko's retirement may end up in a real financial dent here if we're not careful. So
yeah,
it's good.
Okay.
Anybody else? I'm not seeing anything. Thank you so much, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait, Jody.
Oh.
Before the chief goes, I just want to announce that Joe Joyce, his office manager, who's here tonight, is retiring. He just gave us his notice after 14 years with the town, and he's leaving some very big shoes to fill. And he's done such a wonderful job. What's that?
That's what everyone tells me, but I'm sure you'll be able to find someone perfectly suitable to fill my position, no doubt.
I just wanted to thank you for all your years of helping the chief with the budget, and you've done a remarkable job. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck in retirement.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the building department, and we have Henry Fontaine. Does anybody have questions? Heather?
One of the answers kind of piqued my curiosity. And you had mentioned that there was room to maybe evaluate permits. It looks like they haven't been done in a decade. Is there any policy that we have where we kind of every so often review something like that and maybe compare to other towns or fit in an increase? And then on top of that, I'm curious, it looked like basements didn't get permitted. Is that correct?
Jody, you have your hand up. Is that for this or? Okay, I'll let you two between Henry and Jody.
I'm not sure that's accurate, that building permits haven't been looked at in 10 years. We have had some turnover in the building department, but we have looked at them periodically since I've been here. And they have been in line with other communities. So I'm not sure, Henry hasn't been there that many years, but we have looked at it. So yes, we do that periodically. Thank you.
Henry, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I do. As far as the permitting fees go, we, like Jody said, I'm not quite sure when the last time it was done. I've been here as the chief, as a building commissioner for 3 years now. So, there are some areas where we could possibly take a look at it. We have taken some time to look at other communities. I have not done anything other than just look at the other communities. I've not sat down with my director, Jeff Morissette, to speak to him about it as of yet until I gathered enough information on it. But in some areas we're a little lower. And as far as the question for the basement, we do charge for basement permitting, but the way some of the fee structure is, it's really, really different from other communities.
Are you all set on that, Heather?
I think so. I was just going by the answer that the permit fees hadn't been adjusted since 2013. So I think that's where I'm getting my decade from. But if they're looked at on a regular basis, then that's fine.
What I would say is probably the last couple of years we didn't with COVID, everything was different, but and I certainly welcome looking at them again, but I just wanted to say that we have looked at them periodically and they weren't out of whack, but let's look at them again. I'm glad Henry brought that up, but it hadn't been 10 years since we looked at them.
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to make that clear.
You all set, Heather? Okay, Tom?
I would just rephrase that a little bit in that the amount that someone is paying for a permit is probably going up, even though the fee structure hasn't necessarily changed, because they, as far as I understand, they are based on the cost of the project. And with costs escalating already, the permit fee will also escalate, with the exception of the small projects that fall under the minimum, but so I think we probably have seen over those 10 years, we've probably seen some increase in how much a project would cost for a permit.
So, yeah, I mean, again, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but I remember once somebody had to replace a toilet and the fee was about $150 and the toilet was $250. That didn't make sense to us. So I think we reduced that, my recollection, but we have looked at them and we will look at them again. So, but you're right, Tom. Yes, it is based on what the cost is of the project in many cases too. So, but we're happy to look again.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jody. Anybody else have questions? I am not seeing anyone. Thank you very much, Henry. We
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thanks. And on to emergency management. I think Chief Targ is up again for this one. Any questions? Nope, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, you got off easy hit. And animal control. Any questions for animal control? All right. That looks like it. So we'll move on to approval of our minutes. The Finance Committee has 2 sets of minutes to approve.
So Christina, before you move on, I think the select board is going to say goodnight to you folks now.
Okay, would you, that is perfectly fine. Andrea, would you like to approve your minutes from March 10th?
We'll do it at our meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Okay, so
I guess we're adjourned, huh? Bye.
See you later.
bye, John. Okay, so let's go on to the minutes for March 3rd. Anybody have any comments or anything on them? They look fine to me. Heather, did you have, no?
No, I was just gonna abstain when we got there. I was just
Okay.
setting my microphone up to tell you.
Okay. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the March 3rd, 2022 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thanks. Hari,
Yes.
Dennis,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Heather,
Abstain.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. And the minutes from March 10th, does anybody have any comments, questions? No?
I'm good.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. To
And a
approve.
Second from Beth. Thank you. All in favor, Hari,
Yes.
Dennis,
Aye.
Tom,
Abstain.
Heather,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Abstain.
Jeff,
Also abstain.
oh, Beth,
Aye.
I'm an aye. Dan, I wasn't counting that. Did we make it on that one?
Yes, we have 5. Yes,
Okay.
so we're fine.
Okay, great. All right, so that passes. Again, the board and committee updates are just kind of here as a placeholder unless somebody has anything. I can't imagine. But does anybody have anything to update? Oh, Dennis.
Just one request based on just a follow-up from this evening's conversation. I would just recommend, if possible, to either Jody or to Dan, that we begin to keep track of which appointment positions are being hired under either ARPA or these other ones. So when it comes time to make some hard decisions down the road, we have at least a good understanding of who it was that we put on during this period of time. Is that something we could do?
We are tracking that right now. We actually have a
Okay.
spreadsheet on the town manager website that lists all the projects that were approved.
Okay, but these would be the individual, these are the employees who are being hired under that money.
Yep, that's very easy to track. Yep,
Okay, that's something we'd like to have, I think.
sure.
That was a good suggestion, Dennis. Thank you. Heather?
Sorry, I am unmuted. I guess one of the things that frustrates me is, and I think we talked about this a little bit with these town building issues that are on fairly new buildings. And I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Chief Targ who said that, he pulls in Tom Mahana and the vendor. Does Paul Fox get involved in that ever? Because it just kind of strikes me that why aren't we using our town employee who's kind of the expert? I don't know where you communicate that or.
Yeah, I sort of made a comment to myself also to sort of follow up with Paul on some of these. So we can see, unless, I don't know, Dan, do you have any knowledge on that or?
I wasn't involved in those conversations, so I think we'd have to ask one of them directly.
Yeah, okay.
And I think, as we decide we're building or not building new things, that Paul needs to be part of that, I think, more.
Agree.
Why don't you request to have on the agenda for the next meeting and, talk about it?
So my experience is that sometimes it also comes from the bid process, low bid, and you get you get what you pay for sometimes, and it's not to say that it's acceptable. But I can definitely, having been through a municipal building project myself, you definitely do work with the vendor first, at least for that warranty period. You go directly to them for purpose that you have to have everything recorded on warranty. But definitely, I would hope that the facilities director is involved and aware of everything that's going on with all the buildings.
Ingrid.
And I apologize, I couldn't be there last week because I was in negotiations, but I did have a question. Dan, how many of the town contracts are settled?
For next year, we have 1 settled. All 5 are expiring June 30th for this year.
Okay, and I think only one of the school contracts, I believe, were settled.
That's correct. Yep.
And I don't know how much was discussed because in the school budget and then embedded in all the other budgets are assumptions regarding negotiations. And on the school side, that's a big number because in the comp reserve that there are then 9 funding for 9 contracts. And I was just wondering if you've considered scheduling an executive session like we have in previous years, I think, to discuss the assumptions that go into those contract budgets.
That's a great question, but I think we have to talk to Jody about that before, and Chris Chu most likely. So, but I can inquire.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's important. It's a lot of money when we go through this budget process to not have any information on.
Thanks, Ingrid. Anybody else?
One last.
Heather?
So after tonight's meeting, we have 50 in FinCom reserve, is that correct? Okay.
I think that sounds about right. Yep.
And what did we start with?
125, and we have 49 left.
Okay.
So
This is one of the lower years.
Yeah, in the past few years, it's been used a little bit sparingly, but one of the good things is that we have the ability to make budget transfers after May 1st. So, if we make it another 37 days, we're into that relief period.
Not that you're counting.
I think that's concerns for next year is, and I don't even know if we're at 125 again, but I just feel like there's so much, I know, I heard what Jody said, but I just still feel like, there's a lot of risk with the inflation and gas prices, and then all the unforeseen.
I would definitely agree with that, but I think every year there's a certain level of risk, and I think departments end up making a decision to not, order something towards the end of the year or mid-year because things are getting close. I know that's how I run my budget where I work is, I know what I have to live within my means or go to a budget transfer. So I definitely think we need to keep an eye on it. And it made those budget transfers next year a little more dire to have some real close and scrutiny of discussion. So
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Anybody else have anything? Okay. So the finance committee book assignment, you guys, if you notice, Jake is not here. He is on paternity leave. He will be back for annual town meeting. But he was responsible for the culture and recreation and the recreation enterprise fund parts of the budget. So is there anybody who would like to take that on? If not, I actually don't mind doing it because I'm just doing general government, which is pretty easy. Dan kind of does most of that one. So if nobody's burning for it, I'll take it. All right, I've got it then. So I'll do that.
on that note, I do have DPW questions I'm compiling. I get received from 3 people. I don't know if there's any other outstanding, but I would I'll send those over to Dan tomorrow.
Did I send them to you? I can't remember. I don't remember sending to you.
I believe
You don't
you
know.
did. Let me hold on one second.
Sorry.
I'm blanking the same way, Heather. I'm like, I think I sent them, but I don't know.
I don't remember typing La Flame into the, that's where I'm like stuck.
Well, we can check
Okay,
later.
yeah.
If you
Yeah.
haven't, yeah, we'll both
I
check.
have
offline.
Fitzpatrick and Green, and then I think I got maybe Ingrid today.
Yep, I sent some.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great.
Christina?
Yep.
Can you just remind us when those are due?
For which?
For the book.
So I don't have Dan, do you have the dates? In
Let
front
me,
of you?
let me bring up the timeline here. I do have them. I just don't have them memorized.
If it's not next week, I don't know.
I know.
All right.
You mind resending that? For some reason, I always seem to lose it in my email. I need to
Yeah, I
save
can send it right now. That's
That would
fine.
be great. Thanks.
Let me see here. So the FinCom book is going to the printers on May 20th. Normally you have a date on here. The deadline to include material in the FinCom book is May 16th. It's much appreciated if it's earlier, so we're not doing all the sections in a rush. We have time to review. So, but May 16th is pretty much the drop dead date for that.
Okay, thanks.
You know what I'm thinking is maybe sooner rather than later, maybe we can send out the like Dan usually sends out last year's book so that we can kind of go through and update, and maybe do that sooner rather than later, so that if your section has already been done and budget hearing is done and you want to get going on it now, by all means, go ahead. So can we do that maybe even next week, Dan?
I think we wait because of the budget numbers being finalized. But yeah, most of it is like plunking the numbers in the appropriate places.
Yeah.
Except the thing which has a spreadsheet that usually comes from the finance director to Dan.
Right, but there's a lot of verbiage that could be, you know, if people want to get started on, just so that we have it.
I can make that available, the Word doc, and then we'll confirm the numbers after the budget hearings, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds great. Okay. I think we are ready to adjourn. I have a motion.
We're meeting next Thursday night, right?
We are meeting next Thursday. Yep.
Okay.
All right. I see Heather.
Move to
made the
adjourn.
motion.
Second.
Second, I think we can just wave on this one.
Yeah, we're all
Say
set.
goodbye. All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye.